Ladies and gentlemen, we finally got the word. Drake Iceman album is on the way. Now, what's interesting is this album rollout has been has been interesting. Now, I'm gonna say that, right? So essentially, if you're in the Toronto area, you can go down to Dundas and Bond Street. That's Dundas and Bond Street parking lot, and you're gonna see this huge ice sculpture. It's a bunch of like ice blocks on top of each other. And apparently, when this sculpture melts, the release date for the Drake Iceman album is at the center of it, and it'll expose the date of its release. My understanding is that when it melts, we'll know what's up. A bunch of like influencers have gone down there to try to melt the ice. He sent like 1,000 subs to one of the influencers for going down there. It's essentially a landmark, and I'm not mad at this rollout. I'm really not mad at this rollout. Let me know what y'all think about this rollout though. But I think it's interesting. There's layers to unpacking this whole rollout. So, Iceman, is he essentially saying that like he feels cold hearted now based on how the game has treated him and everything that's transpired? I mean, you got to think the last project was him and Party, which I thought was a dope album. Sexy songs for you, I thought it was pretty good. Tap into that. He had a few bangers on there. I grew up in the Nas Jay Z beef era where like you could I still listen to Jay after they beef. I still listen to Nas after they beef. This Kendrick and Drake thing felt like people were picking sides, and you couldn't enjoy Kendrick if you enjoyed Drake. You couldn't enjoy Drake if you enjoyed Kendrick. I don't ascribe to that. I don't ascribe to that at all. Sorry, you know what I'm saying? Salute to y'all, but that's not my cup of tea. I still listen to both. Salute to both these brothers. You know what I'm saying? They're artists at the end of the day. I had a little squabble, we move on. You squabbled with your friends, you squabbled with people, and then moved on, right? That's how life go. Now there were certain lines that were crossed for sure, but all of that is behind us now. Now we're here for the artistry. You know what I'm saying? Um, and I don't know what kind of album we're getting with Iceman. There's my only knock on calling it Iceman with everything going on with ice and stuff like that. Maybe it's a little bit like, you know, not enough social awareness to not be, you know, using those words. But maybe he had the title long before any of that was happening. Um, and maybe that title means something to him. Maybe it's Iceman from if you ever seen Top Gun, there's a character named Iceman in that. Maybe it's derived from that. I don't know. I don't know where the whole Iceman concept comes from, but I'm sure we'll find out with the rollout of the album. But I do think it's interesting. He's had a few snippet showings. What do you want to hear from Drake? That's really the question. I'm a huge Drake fan. I can tell you the progression of his albums has been really dope to witness. I liked all his albums. I think Scorpion is probably the one that I enjoyed the least, although the highs were really high. You gotta understand that he had hits on that album, but you know, I say Drake is like I call Drake the soundtrack to my emotional growth. If DMX is the soundtrack to my to my criminality, then Drake is the soundtrack to my emotional growth. A lot of his music resonates so much because it's so well put together. You resonate with it emotionally. uh a lot of Drake songs are on my life's timeline, like I can pinpoint a certain memory based on a certain song. I love Drake's music. I think he's an incredible artist. He's a black man that I support. I'm a huge Drake fan. I love everything that OVO is doing with Party Next Door. Naomi Sharon, very talented, very beautiful young woman. um what were the mother boys? Those the two brothers, Magic Jordan. I love what they were doing. Um, yeah, big salute to OVO Sound. Big salute to Drake. I think there's so much that has happened. We live in a time where there's a lot of jealousy and envy and betrayal, and those things can affect you as a person. Now, I can't just as a regular human being, I've been personally affected by betrayals and things like that. Now, I can't even imagine at the level of celebrity that Drake has reached, like what kind of betrayals he's experienced. The tough part about life is trying to figure out how to not let those betrayals become you, like to not victimize yourself to where that becomes your identity. I'm sure there were plenty of people that he had relationships with in the industry that he was shocked to see maybe treat him differently because of the Kendrick situation. I'm sure that The litigation between him and his label is going to affect him. There's so many things happening that just on a human level, on a just basic human level, that I think have affected him deeply, and that's gonna manifest itself in the music. I really don't know what kind of album we're getting, but I think with the title like Iceman, he's gonna address some of these betrayals. He's gonna address things that are going on in his personal life. He's got a son now. Salute to his son. I salute to every black man that's present for their son. I think that's beautiful. Um, so that changes you as a human. Becoming a parent, it really changes you as a human. You know, not being married, that for a man who understands love and makes such beautiful love songs, it's crazy to see that he hasn't found a woman to settle down with yet, or maybe he has, it just never worked out. There's a lot of longing in his music. There's a lot of um I think there's deep loneliness at that level, like that. It's very deep loneliness at that level because your interactions are, it's difficult to gauge who's interacting with you from a genuine place. When you're at that level of success, you don't see the real side of people. You just see the side that they present to you. And it's difficult to discern who's really for you and who's not. And even just close friends can turn on you. So I'm saying all of this to say that there are so many levels of betrayal that he's probably experienced, and all of that is going to manifest in the music. So you can expect an introspective album. I know he's going to have some hits for us. Summer's around the way. Come on, Six God. We going to need that summer banger. You know that. So I'm sure there'll be a banger on there. I'm sure there'll be some introspective music on there. There'll be some love songs on there. It'll be interesting to see exactly what kind of music we get from Iceman. I I want it to be a long album. Nothing over like 20 songs max. Ideally, try to keep it under 20 songs. I want you to address your growth. I want you to have different production. I want some hit songs on there. You and Central C always make really dope collabs. We've heard so many different snippets from this album, but I really don't think any of those snippets are making it on the album, if I'm being honest. I'm pretty convinced that none of that is going to be on the album. I want to hear the deep introspective songs. Of course, odes to your mother, because, she's getting older and just that relationship is so beautiful. Want to hear about that developing, especially with her becoming a grandmother, and that's going to be beautiful to talk about. Um talk about your love life, man. Like, what is that like? Will you ever settle down? Will you ever find a woman that you could be with at that level of success? I feel like for anybody to experience like major success, it's ideal to find your partner in the beginning before it happens. Because once you're successful, again, it's very difficult to gauge who's there for you, who's there to be with you for you. You know what I'm saying? Um, Definitely want to hear Party Next Door collab. Y'all make magic together. Magic. Big salute on that album with him. A collab album with Party. Sexy songs for you out now on all streaming platforms. Now, as far as the Kendrick situation, you probably have a lot you want to say, right? Don't make it the entire album. Don't let the identity of this album be about Kendrick. Make it about you, and maybe reflect on that experience. One or two songs, however, your process is your process, but don't let the entire identity of the album be about Kendrick. You know, After Jay Z and Nas beef, Jay definitely still addressed the Nas situation, but he also made sure to give us a full body of work. He made sure to give us, good music that had to do with other parts of his life. So definitely make sure that you're addressing those different topics. I want to hear some collaborations. I really like you on conductor beats. You know what I'm saying? Give us one of those. You know what I mean? I'm not mad at that at all. Another one of those red button. You know what I'm saying? Another one of those collabs. Um, 8 a.m. in Charlotte. I don't know. A timestamp song on this album would be very dope. Very, very dope. 4 a.m. in Turks and Caicos. You know what I'm saying? Something dope like that. There's so much to talk about. How has your circle changed as you get older? How's your circle changed? Um, Um, Definitely hoping for some 40 production on here. We need that. Um, and I'm not mad if this album has fewer features. I'm gonna be honest. If this is like a mostly Drake album, I'm totally fine with that. There is Turn Up Drake, and some people like Turn Up Drake, some people don't like Turn Up Drake. And I'm talking about like the new age music, contemporary music, Drake. Um, I'm not mad at it. I think there's something for everybody on his project, so I'm not mad if he goes that route. But Iceman is coming. Iceman album is finally dropping. We have confirmation. We're gonna have a release date sooner than later. That block that's at Dundas and Bond Street is gonna melt, and we're gonna get a date. And when that date drops, man, I think we're gonna get a phenomenal album. Let me know in the comments if you think this is gonna be a dope album, if you think it's gonna be a bad album. I personally think it's gonna be a fire album. I definitely think that. I think we're gonna get a very fire Drake album. It'll be interesting to see what direction he takes, though. I'm not mad at it if it's like a views type joint. Views was incredible. Um, but art is about moving forward. Art is about curating a new experience. So I don't want to compare this album to anything else. I just want to sit with the album and see what he's gonna present to us. But give it your best shot. Make a dope album. Don't let the album, the identity of the album, be somebody else. Make it about you. Say everything you want to say. Say everything you want to say. Like, don't hold back at all, at all, at all. Because one thing I've learned in this life is you spend a lot of time sparing people just for them not to spare you when it's their turn. So say everything you want to say. Don't hold back at all. Iceman coming. If you want to find out the release date sooner than later, go to Dundas and Bond Street. If you're in the Toronto area, and go figure that out. You know what I'm saying? Go help all the other streamers that are trying to melt the ice. But salute to Six God. We all waiting. We're all waiting to hear how this album comes out. Big salute. We the fan show. We out of here.